I never expected the weight of a promise to change the trajectory of my life. Not the kind you whisper in passing, but the kind that burns itself into your soul. I was born in a rundown neighborhood on the outskirts of Detroit. My mother worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on, while my father, well, he left before I could remember his face. Poverty didn't just teach me to survive. It taught me how to observe, how to read people, and most of all, how to hustle. At 16, I sold refurbished phones out of my backpack. I taught myself how to repair cracked screens using YouTube videos at the public library. Every dollar I earned, I reinvested, tools, parts, and eventually a website. I didn't party. I didn't sleep much. I didn't care. Hunger, real hunger, both for food and a better life, drove me harder than any pep talk ever could. But let's be real. No journey to success is linear. At 20, I lost everything when a shady supplier disappeared with $40,000 of my inventory. That was my life savings, gone in an instant. I remember collapsing on my apartment floor, staring at the ceiling fan, feeling like the biggest fool on earth. I had trusted the wrong person, and it nearly ended me. I almost gave up. Almost. Then I met her. Not the woman from the wedding night. No, we'll get there. This was Leah, a quiet, observant waitress at the corner diner I visited every Sunday after failing to find any other place with free Wi-Fi and a clean seat. She noticed my tired eyes, the way I'd bring my cracked laptop and old phone and sit for hours nursing a single coffee. She never rushed me, never asked for more. One night, she left a small post-it on my cup. I don't know your story, but I believe in people who don't give up. It was the dumbest, simplest thing, but it changed something in me. For the first time in weeks, I believed maybe I wasn't crazy. Maybe I could still build something. That same night, I rebuilt my business plan. I rebranded, cut all middlemen, and started fixing devices locally again. This time, smarter. I offered mobile repairs, show up to offices, homes, anywhere. Convenience was my angle. Within 6 months, I had more demand than I could handle. By 23, I'd hired my first 2 employees. The grind was relentless, but the rewards? Sweeter than anything money could buy. Still, through every milestone, I couldn't stop thinking about that note from Leah. The day I became a millionaire, I didn't celebrate with champagne. I walked into that same diner, slid into her section, and left a tip that could pay her rent for 6 months. I didn't say a word, just handed her a coffee cup, with her post-it still taped to the side. She smiled, blinked back tears, and said, "Told you. I believe in people who don't give up." I wish I could say Leah, and I became something right then and there. But fate plays a longer game than we imagine. As my company grew into a regional tech service giant, I had to relocate to Silicon Valley. There, I entered a world I'd only seen on screens. Investor pitches, venture capital dinners, and endless 14-hour days fueled by ambition and overpriced coffee. But loneliness? That still lingered. That's when I met Maya. She wasn't flashy or loud like many of the women in the circles I now moved in. She was different. Reserved. Sharp. A software engineer from an immigrant family who had built her career from nothing, just like me. We bonded over late-night debugging sessions, shared stories of missed meals, and childhoods shaped by absence. There was something real between us. I could feel it. It wasn't just romance, it was alignment. She challenged me, didn't care about my money, and saw the man beneath the suit. I respected her, admired her, and slowly I began to fall. One evening, under a moonlit balcony after a product launch, I looked into her eyes and made a vow. If I ever propose, it won't be because I need a wife. It'll be because I can't imagine walking another step of this journey without you. She smiled softly. Then wait until you're sure. I did. It took me 3 years. 3 years of traveling, scaling my company to 8 figures, facing betrayals, legal battles, and emotional exhaustion. Through it all, Maya stood by me, not as a bystander, but as a partner. When I finally proposed, it wasn't in some grand spectacle. It was in a quiet moment on the same balcony, with no cameras, just a ring and trembling hands. She said yes. And I swore, in that instant, I'd never take her love for granted. But the real story doesn't start until the wedding night. The wedding was perfect, not in the over-the-top, choreographed kind of way. It was intimate, intentional, everything we wanted. I wore a tailored navy suit, not some royal-looking tux. Maya looked like poetry in motion, elegant, understated, radiant. Her eyes met mine as she walked down the aisle, and I felt time halt. As we said our vows, I wasn't thinking about the company I built, the millions I earned, or the board meetings waiting on my calendar. I was thinking about that 16-year-old kid repairing phones in a moldy basement, and how he never thought this kind of love was possible. Our closest family and friends cheered as we sealed the promise with a kiss. And as we drove away from the venue, hands interlocked, hearts full, I thought, this is it. The final piece. I have everything. But the truth has a way of revealing itself in stillness. When the crowd fades, the lights dim, and it's just you and the person you've promised forever to. That night, we checked into a secluded villa nestled in the cliffs of Amalfi, overlooking the moonlit sea. Every detail had been planned for months. Candles, silk sheets, music, champagne. But Maya, she was quiet. Not shy, not cold, just distant. Almost like she was battling something internally. Asked if she was okay. She sat on the edge of the bed, looking at the waves crashing far below, then turned to me. "There's something I've never told you," she whispered. I remember my heart skipping a beat. Her voice wasn't fearful. It was steady, prepared. She continued, "I've never been with anyone. Not physically. Not emotionally. You are my first. My only." The silence between us became deafening. Not because I was disappointed, but because I was stunned by the depth of her intentionality, by the weight of what she had preserved. She looked down. I never said anything because I didn't want it to define me. I've spent my life building my mind, not chasing relationships. I made a promise to myself years ago that I'd only give myself fully to someone I trusted with my soul. Then her voice cracked. "And I trust you. That's why I'm telling you now." I stood frozen, not because her confession changed anything, but because it changed everything. Here was a woman who had built walls not out of fear, but out of value. Who chose to wait not because of religion, not because of pressure, but because her love had standards higher than most people could understand. I knelt beside her, took her hands in mine, and said the only words that felt right. "Thank you for saving this part of you for me. But even if you hadn't, I'd still love you just as deeply. Your purity isn't your worth. Your soul is." Tears filled her eyes, and for the first time since the ceremony, she truly smiled. Not a posed, picture-perfect grin, but a smile born from deep, unmistakable peace. That night, there was no pressure. No expectations. Just two souls learning how to breathe as one. And in the quiet, as we laid in each other's arms beneath the Mediterranean stars, I realized something profound. The real treasure in life isn't found in status or bank balances. It's found in people who see you. Not your wealth, not your resume, but you. The next morning, I rose early. I walked out onto the balcony with a notebook, the same kind I used to sketch my dreams in a decade ago. And I wrote one sentence across the first page. What if the most powerful success isn't building an empire, but earning the trust of someone who would give you their entire heart? It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about meaning. Because for the first time, I wasn't just building a life. I was building our life. Years have passed since that wedding night in Amalfi. Maya and I built more than a marriage. We built a mission. While my company, now a billion-dollar tech conglomerate, continues to grow, I no longer chase headlines or handshakes. I chase impact. Because what I learned on that night, staring into the eyes of a woman who gave me all of herself, not just her body, but her trust, her truth, redefined what success meant to me. It wasn't about the Forbes list. I made that. It wasn't the private jets or penthouses. I bought those and they got boring fast. It wasn't even the applause at tech conferences or startup awards. Success, I discovered, is peace. Success is being able to look in the mirror and know exactly who you are and who you're building for. Maya and I started a foundation a year after our honeymoon. We called it the First Promise, a nod to the vow we made to each other, and the idea that the first promise anyone should keep is the one to themselves, to live with integrity, to lead with purpose. We fund education programs for young girls in underserved communities, those who, like Maya once did, fight daily battles of expectations, silence, and invisibility. We mentor teen entrepreneurs, not with gimmicks, but with gritty truths. We speak to youth about real wealth, the kind that begins in the mind, not the bank. I often revisit the neighborhood I came from, the cracked sidewalks, the fading murals, the corner where I sold my first repaired iPhone for $50. I talk to the kids there, not from a place of pity, but of power. I tell them, your struggle is your strategy. Don't erase it, embrace it. And when I come home, tired from giving my all to the world, Maya is there, with warm eyes, the smell of fresh tea, and stories about her day that light up the room more than any chandelier could. She's still the same woman who waited not because she had to, but because she chose to. And that choice, it taught me everything. Not long ago, we welcomed a daughter. We named her Elia, meaning, God has answered. Because in every way, she was the fulfillment of every silent prayer we never dared to speak aloud. I hold her in my arms and think about legacy, not just in terms of wealth or trust funds, but truth. What story will she tell one day? Will she say her father was rich? Maybe. But more importantly, I hope she says, my dad built empires, but more than that, he loved deeply, lived honestly, and chose people over pride. He was a man of his word. Because here's the truth I want to leave you with. The one I learned the night I found out my wife had saved herself just for me. The most valuable things in life don't come with a price tag. They come with sacrifice, patience, and purpose. And when you find someone willing to give you their everything, not because they need you, but because they believe in you, you don't just win in love. You win in life. So, to every young dreamer out there, every hustler, builder, late-night thinker, early morning riser, never forget, the world will try to measure your worth in cars, titles, and numbers. But you? Measure it in truth. Measure it in love. Measure it in the promises you keep, especially the ones no one sees. Because sometimes, the richest man in the world isn't the one with the most money. It's the one who knows exactly what he can never afford to lose. And I found that on my wedding night.